Hello and welcome back to the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Grunt Hero by Weston Ochse. This is the third Task Force Ombra novel from Solaris Books, and maybe a little bit of spoilers here. The first book was Grunt Life. We're introduced to Ben Mason, our protagonist. He's a soldier with PTSD, and he's suicidal. He's saved by Mr. Pink, as he calls him, from Task Force Ombra. And he's told that there's a secret alien invasion happening, and he's been recruited to help fight it. In the second book, Grunt Trader, the Earth has been almost taken over. There are some pockets of resistance, human resistance, but the aliens are terraforming the planet, and there are some revelations about what the aliens have planned, and Ben Mason is still fighting, and some things go horribly wrong, and that leads us to Grunt Hero. So at the beginning of this book, Ben is in I don't know if it would be proper to call it an Inuit village, but he's way up north with these people trying to find himself, and Task Force Ombra finds him. They show up, and moments later the aliens show up, and Ben Mason finds himself pulled back in to the fight, and he finds, even though he hasn't been gone really that long, there have been some changes to Task Force Ombra that he's going to have to deal with, and there are even bigger revelations regarding the aliens and how we're fighting them, and these other pockets of human resistance have become organized in different groups, and Ben and Task Force Ombra is in conflict with those people as well as the aliens, and things just are crazy. So without giving too much away, that's what you've got in Grunt Hero, the continuing saga of Ben Mason and Task Force Ombra. And as with the two previous books, which I have reviewed, and I'll put links up here wherever those things are. I think they're over there. I don't know. Either way, I'll have links for my reviews up there. And I really loved those books, and I absolutely love this book. Weston Ochse, as I want to say former soldier, but he may still be active in the military. I'm not quite sure. But as a former military man, or a military man, he really knows how to write the military side of these things. All sides. He's a great writer, but the military aspects of this story really have some authenticity, despite the science fiction trappings. You have mech suits, not like the giant mech suits like from Robotech, or Mech Warriors. These are more of a bulkier, say, Iron Man armor kind of thing, or War Machine would be more appropriate since they're loaded with weapons. But it gives the humans not necessarily an advantage over the aliens, but at least puts them more on an equal footing. And all of that science fiction stuff is well written too. Weston Ochse, just a fantastic writer. And even with his military experience and how well the military aspects of the book are written, his strength is that thing that is so important to me, and that's characterization. Ben Mason is a fantastic character, and we've seen him over the course of these three books grow from this soldiers. I mean, he's still suffering from PTSD, but he's grown from this suicidal person to a great leader, and an inspiring character. Just really incredibly well written, as are the rest of the characters. We're introduced to some new people in this book, and they're all fascinating. They're all really fleshed out. And of course, we've got returning characters, and it's great to see them. And this book, for me, I'm not sure if it's the book itself or maybe just where I was at when I was reading it. But there's some greater emotional weight to this, I think, than the other two. Not that those didn't have that weight to them. Just there's more so in this. And there are a couple very shocking isn't necessarily the word, but just sort of gut punch scenes emotionally. One in particular that I'm not going to give you any details about, but it's just a conversation that really packs a punch. So, show you that cover again. This is a great story. It's a great third book. I put it that way because I don't know if there are going to be any more. It has an open ending, so it sort of concludes things, but the story itself could carry on. And it's really, really satisfying. The revelations in this book are really wild. Not necessarily, how do I put this? Not necessarily completely original. It's an idea that I've seen before. If you do a lot of reading, especially in the science fiction realm, you may have seen this before as well, but it's handled in a great way. The fact that it's been out there in other forms does not take away from the effect of these revelations in the story. I'm being very vague, I know, but as always, I'm trying to avoid any major spoilers. And if I told you what these revelations were, they would definitely be big spoilers. There is tragedy, as there always seems to be in these books. But because Weston writes so well, and we become so invested in these characters, excuse me, the things that happen to them, again, pack that punch. You can read books where you have characters that are just cannon fodder, and you know they're going to be cannon fodder, and you don't become attached to them, but that's not the case here. Every character is so well fleshed out, so three-dimensional, that whatever happens to them, good or bad, you're going to feel it. It's going to matter. You're going to be happy when something good happens, and you're going to be devastated when something bad happens. Excuse me. So, really, just fantastic storytelling from Weston Ochse. I highly recommend all three of these books. I don't remember the ratings I gave the first two, but I assume they were high. They had to be at least 4.5, if not 5. So, that being said, what we have here is 5 out of 5 killer whales, or orcas, whatever you want to call them. 5 out of 5. This does have something to do, a little bit to do with the story. And it was tough for me to figure out what to draw. The mech suits seemed way too complicated for my meager talents. The aliens seemed too complicated. So I finally came up with this. I had to pick something from the story. So 5 out of 5 orcas for Grunt Hero. Just a fantastic story, a fantastic conclusion to the trilogy. I would love to see the return of some of these characters. I would love to see Weston Ochse return to this world. Of course, it doesn't matter what he does next. I'm going to read it because I really enjoy his work. But I wouldn't mind coming back to this world. You should really read all three. I suppose you could read each one, like you could just read this and not read the first two. I think there's enough that give you enough background on the first two books that you're not going to be horribly confused. But what would be the point of that? I mean, it's a series. You're going to want to read all three, read them in order, get to know Ben Mason, follow him through his adventures, get to know Mr. Pink and all the other characters. And, I mean, it is one big story, so you're going to want to read them all. And it's just a paperback. It's $8. And as always, I will have links, one or two links for the book in the description below. Like I said, I, as always, don't want to give anything away. So... lots of plot points I could talk about, but I just don't want to, because I want you to read it for yourself and find out what happens. Find out what those big revelations are. Read those big moments. The action scenes are so well written. And again, I think you can see that, well, I mean, I was going to say, I think you can see this is someone with a military background who has written this. I have read other... I hesitate to call this military sci-fi because it has a different feel than the other military sci-fi that I've written. And what I was getting to is I have read other military sci-fi, and I don't know the backgrounds of those authors. So I can't say whether or not what they've written reflects their own personal experience. I do know that Weston Ochse is a military man, and to me it shows in how these things are written, how the action scenes are written, how the aspects of the military are written. And it's an amazing exploration into the effects of PTSD on this character and how he deals with it, how he deals with the loss that he's gone through as a soldier. Again, anyone who watches these videos knows how important character is to me, and Ben Mason is an amazing character, fully fleshed out. And I guess that's the nice thing about having at least 3 books in the series, is we can see him grow and we can learn more about him, and he becomes that much more real to the reader. So, without talking too much about specifics, I guess that's going to be it. There are, man, some of the new characters, there's a couple especially that I really, really enjoy. They're not necessarily the best people, although, I mean, they're not bad people. They're just different than the other soldiers we've seen, but I really enjoy their characters. So 5 out of 5. Grunt Hero by Weston Ochse, highly recommended. So again, I'll have links, 1 or 2 for the book, in the description below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers, so if you want more specifics on the story itself, you can ask me down there, and we'll just post spoiler warnings so we don't spoil it for anybody. But, I mean, what else do you need to know? Incredibly well-written military, action, sci-fi, alien invasion, great characters. But if you do want to know more, just ask. Please like, share, and subscribe. And that's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I have been your host, Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.